On today's show, what is the role of Pierre-Luc Dubois on the Capitals, and ultimately, who is number one in net?
Your Locked On Capitals, your daily podcast on the Washington Capitals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Well, hello and welcome into this edition of Locked On Capitals. I'm so glad you decided to join me today. As always, this podcast is free and available on all the major platforms, including the SiriusXM app and on YouTube. And I want to thank you for making this your first listen each and every day. My name is Dan Holme. I've covered the Capitals for the last 3 seasons for Locked On and various other outlets before that. I'm also the host of the weekly show called The Capitals Minutecast, available wherever you find your podcasts. You can find me on Twitter. It's at DanCaps218. You can find the show on Twitter. It's at Locked On Caps. And the best way that you can help grow the show is to subscribe to Locked On Capitals on YouTube and comment anything down below. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. So in this edition of Locked On Capitals, we talk about Pierre-Luc Dubois' role with the Capitals. That was the big move that took place last summer. They sent Darcy Kemper out to the Kings. And that move was met with quite a bit of skepticism. Ultimately, why did the Capitals go all in on a guy that has 7 years left on his contract? And where does he ultimately fit in with the Capitals? I'll talk about that a little bit later. I'll talk about the challenges for Alex Ovechkin playing on right wing. I mean, for the lion's share of his career, he has played on the left wing. How difficult is it for him to adapt playing on the right wing? And then in the final segment, we'll talk about ultimately who is number one in net for the Capitals. But just to get it going here, talking about PLD's role and where he fits in with the Capitals. I listen to a lot of different podcasts, watch a lot of different shows. And last summer, when PLD, the Capitals traded for PLD and he was brought to this team, it was met with quite a bit of skepticism. For a young man, he's bounced around on a lot of different teams. What are some of the qualities that the Capitals saw in him, and ultimately, where is he going to fit in the lineup? And I think that all things considered, despite, looking at his score sheet, he's played rather well. He only has 1 assist, but with that said, we are only 2 games into the season. I expect to see that role for him grow and for him to be just a really key piece for the Capitals. Pierre-Luc Dubois is expected to play a key role for the Capitals, serving not just as a second-line center, but as a significant contributor to the team's overall strategy. Head coach Spencer Carberry outlined a plan to utilize Dubois effectively, aligning him with Connor McMichael and Tom Wilson. The objective is for the line to establish a rhythm that allows them to match up against opposing teams' top units, similar to the way strong fourth line composed of Brandon Duhaime, Nick Dowd, and Taylor Radish. So when you take a look at the role that PLD is going to take on with the Capitals, it's quite a role. It is quite a bit of responsibility that is bestowed on that whole line, really, is to match up against some of the best opposing teams. And oftentimes you don't get that with an AHL call-up. I've heard quite a bit of chatter of why did the Capitals go out and get PLD when they have all this young talent? And to that, I would say some of that young talent might be able to hold up, but we know that Pierre-Luc Dubois has the pedigree and he has the history of being a really great player. Talking about flexible lineups, Carberry emphasized the strategic advantage that flexible lineups provide, particularly in utilizing Dubois. Dubois excels at matching up against elite players in the league and brings a heightened offensive perspective to the role. This capability allows us to challenge the likes of Eichel and McDavid by forcing them into defensive situations. By rotating our lines, we can exploit matchups and create opportunities to generate offensive scoring, Carberry said. So it's one of the things that, like I said, I think that we were hoping for that in game 2, he would have scored 2 or 3 goals already. And, we could tell everyone, see, this is why we brought him here but it's for him to match up against some of the best of the best. And we saw that exemplified when the Capitals took on the Golden Knights in the huge role that he played for the Capitals. I expect to see him match up against some of the best with the Stars as well. Talking about matchup strategy, on Tuesday, the 6'4" center and his second line faced off against Jack Eichel's top trio multiple times. Coach Carberry highlighted this strategic move isn't a critique of the fourth line. Rather, it's a method to boost offensive production up and down the lineup. Now, when you take a look at it, that fourth line has been a key for the Capitals, but if you can have another line out there that can play a similar, if not bigger role, that could be huge. While Dowder is certainly capable of contributing offensively, his primary value emerges when matched up against players like Rope Hintz. Dowder excels in shutting down opposing lines, showcasing his elite defensive skills by ensuring they don't score. Moving forward, we could explore the strategy of deploying players who prioritize offensive playing, complementing Dowder's defensive capabilities by challenging opponents who are focused on scoring. So it's interesting that it's a similar role to Dowder in the fourth line, but we expect to see that Dubois continues to take on a bigger role, and he's out there matched up against some of the best of the best. And what is Pierre-Luc Dubois' perspective on this? What are his thoughts, and where does he think that he fits in with the team? Dubois is enthusiastic about the opportunity to engage with this new team, viewing the experience as both a challenge and a confidence booster. As he becomes more familiar with his teammates, he is taking on an increased responsibility and playing larger minutes on the ice. And you got to think that PLD is looking for a bounce back season as well. When we take a look at his time with the Kings, I choose to view it as a blip on the radar, that it just wasn't the proper fit. It was trying to fit a round peg in a square hole, misutilized, underutilized, coaching mess in LA. I think that he will thrive under Coach Spencer Carberry. Talking about the alignment with teammates, Dubois has a well-established tendency for leveraging matchups against elite competition, which he thrives on. Given his previous success in similar situations, aligning him with Willie and Mikey in these high-stake assignments appears to be a strategic advantage. So there is a method to the madness, and that oftentimes we don't see it as fans. We look for goal scoring. Did he score a goal? Did he get an assist? Oftentimes it's about lining up against your competition and holding up really well. As the Capitals prepare to face Dallas, the strategy will similarly focus on deploying Dubois to counter their top offensive threats. So he is tasked with a big role. Make no mistake about it, they're not just throwing any guy out there. Spencer Carberry sees the value in Pierre-Luc Dubois. And again, we're only in game 2. Game 3 tonight, I expect the role of PLD on this team to grow and take on a much even bigger role. All right, so coming up here straight ahead, we'll talk about Alex Ovechkin and what were his thoughts about playing on the right wing, considering he's played almost his entire career on the left wing. I'll discuss coming up. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. And listen, there is a lot of football played on any given Sunday or Monday or Thursday, and some of those games you're into, say the Commanders are playing, say the Ravens are playing, you're all, automatically into those games. But say it's a weekend and our team isn't playing. Well, open up the FanDuel app, put a little bit of money on those games. All of a sudden, they got that much more exciting. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So next, let's talk about Alex Ovechkin. And Alex Ovechkin, for one, getting 700 assists. Wow, quite an accomplishment. I know that we all have our eyes fixed on the Gretzky record, but all the milestones that he's knocking down even between here and there. And that was a big thing, getting 700 career assists, and also kind of an interesting night for him as he was penciled in to play on the right wing. Oftentimes we saw him veer over to the left just because, well, that's what he's done for around 20 years. We saw glimpses of it under the Adam Oates era, not a particularly bright spot in the Capitals' history in my assessment, but ultimately the Capitals are looking to, I think, jumpstart Alex Ovechkin a little bit as he's getting assists, but I think that they ultimately want to get him in the goal scoring department. On Tuesday, Alex Ovechkin recorded 2 assists in a game against the Golden Knights, making him the 6th player in NHL history to achieve the milestone of 700 goals and 700 assists following the Capitals' 4-2 victory. Discussion centered not only on the significant achievement, but also on Ovechkin's shift in position during the game. And are we going to see more of that? That is the question I get quite often. And to that, I would say maybe. That line did score a goal. Protas did score a goal off an assist from Alex Ovechkin, so they might. I guess, maybe they want a larger sample size, but with the hockey season, you can't afford to dilly-dally too much as you see some of the teams emerging as being very good teams. The Capitals want to stay on pace and not experiment too much. Ultimately, that is what preseason hockey is about. Talking about playing position, Ovechkin skated the first line with Dylan Strome and Aliaksei Protas, which was a change, showcasing his versatility by playing on the right wing. So quite a change for Ovechkin, who primarily plays on the left wing, and also insert Aliaksei Protas to the mix. As we know, it was Andrew Mangiapane before that, his strong side being left wing, of course. Despite this unconventional positioning, he still achieved a multi-point game. Took him over the edge, took him to 700 assists. So all things considered, didn't find the back of the net, but he did chip in with assists. Talking about Ovechkin, what was his thoughts about playing on the left wing and the right wing? And ultimately, is there a big difference? He said, not really. It's primarily when the puck is on the right side that it feels a bit uncomfortable at the moment, but we'll see how it develops. During a recent media session in the locker room, Ovechkin expressed his initial challenges, stating, first couple of shifts were kind of like, whoa, I always find myself wanting to go to the left side, as was evident. And, Alex Ovechkin and his legacy and all that surrounds him, I don't know the coaching staff and the tactics they take if they are real tough with him, but you got to think to a certain extent, maybe someone tapped him on the shoulder and whispered in his ear, remember, right wing when you're out there. Is that what ultimately happened? I don't know, but you could definitely tell that he tried to always veer over to the left wing. Again, it'll be interesting to see how it all matches up Thursday evening against Dallas. But talking about Ovechkin's history and the times that he's played on the left wing and the right wing, as a right-handed player, Ovechkin has spent nearly his entire 20-season career playing on the left wing. He gained prominence as a young star for his ability to score during fast breaks by racing down the left side, cutting to the center, and delivering powerful wrist shots past goalies. Over the years, he has also become a formidable scorer from the left face-off circle, Ovi's office, as we know, a position that has earned him his famous nickname, Ovi's office. Now, why are they looking to shake things up a little bit? Well, to a certain extent, I would say Alex Ovechkin setting up from his office is predictable. And the netminders are prepared for it. And Alex Ovechkin is 39 years old, that maybe his shot is not quite as lethal as it once was. Talking about coaching influence, Hockey Hall of Famer Adam Oates was instrumental in altering Ovechkin's playing position, shifting him to the right wing during his tenure as the Capitals head coach. Despite this adjustment, Ovechkin continues to excel, leading the league in goals for both seasons under Oates. However, the change created some challenges for him. Ovechkin often appeared disoriented, leading to instances where he collided with teammates during practices and games. And there was an instance with Mojo, Marcus Johansson, that comes to mind. Is that going to be the case again? Do we want Alex Ovechkin, considering his size, smashing into his fellow teammates, friendly fire, if you will. I don't necessarily think that will be the case, but again, let's see what unfolds Thursday evening if Spencer Carberry decides to go with that again. But talking about the advantages of playing right wing, a winger playing on their strong side offers several advantages. Primarily, it allows players to receive passes on their forehand rather than their backhand, enhancing visibility of the ice in the offensive zone. Additionally, it simplifies playing pucks along the boards in the defensive zone as players do not have their backs to the play as often. Clearing pucks out of the zone becomes more manageable as well. I think he did a good job. You know, when you take a look at it, like I talked about, he wanted to keep veering over to the left, but getting 2 assists in the game and breaking a big milestone. You see Aliaksei Protas scoring a goal. They might want to take another look at it. So what was Carberry's thoughts on it? Ovechkin, who adjusted to playing on the right side again, has garnered positive feedback from Coach Carberry. Carberry commended Ovechkin's performance in the game against Vegas, particularly noting his assist on Protas's goal. So I think that we plan on seeing more of that. I guess it remains to be seen how it shakes out. We'll have notes after if there is a morning skate this morning. In preparation for an upcoming match, Carberry explained that he made the adjustment to put Protas, a left shot player, on his strong side to optimize the team's configuration. He emphasized the need to manage the lineup effectively, especially given the presence of multi-left shot wingers on the team. And, you know, again, I think it's to a certain extent to take Ovechkin out of his comfort zone. Carberry stated on the future outlook, I think it's a small change. I find Ovi on both sides of the ice a lot. And so left, right, it's not a huge deal to me. If he continues to position Ovechkin on the right side, Ovechkin will have another opportunity to get acclimated to that role as the Capitals prepare to take on the Dallas Stars. So definitely something to keep our eyes on going forward. Ultimately, where does it shake out? Where is he going to be, on the left wing or the right wing? Kind of my hunch, again, and this is just a hunch, is that we will see him yet again on the right wing. Just to take a look at it, I guess it remains to be seen how it all plays out. All right, so coming up here straight ahead, we'll talk about questions in net. Yes, there's still questions in net. A lot of it's semantics. Who is the number one in net for the Capitals? It was a bit of a foregone conclusion that it was going to be Charlie Lindgren, but is Logan Thompson going to make it interesting? I'll discuss coming up. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. And it's one of the things that's frustrating for me is that when I'm going to see my favorite band, I'm going to see a concert, or I'm going to see my favorite sports team play, am I going to be able to find tickets for one? And what is the view going to be from where I'm sitting? So take that guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Prize Picks is the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy, so your lineups stay in place. So there's little to no risk. If one of your players gets injured, if your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, Prize Picks keeps your lineups live. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first lineup. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team. Every day, you'll have to excuse me. My voice is just warming up as I'm just getting up. I didn't have a chance to do the show last night. Thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals. Let's next talk about the netminding situation and who's going to be number one, who's going to be number two, or is it a 1A, 1B? I hate all that talk. At the end of the day, it's who's going to be in net on any given night and who's going to get who's going to play in the net the most? Or is there going to be a netminder that plays the most? Are they going to split the workload up? It is an interesting storyline to follow as both the netminders, Logan Thompson, Charlie Lindgren, are entering into contract years. And I think that only one of those netminders will get an extension. Crazier things have happened, but my belief on that whole thing is that both of their prices will increase some. And I don't think the Capitals would be able to lock up Charlie Lindgren and Logan Thompson under contract. And who is the front runner to be the number one? Or could you say the guy that gets the extension? Now, to be clear here, it's much too early to make an accurate assessment on such things. But, one of the things I've noticed is that Logan Thompson has been most impressive. And I think that why the Capitals went out to trade for him in the first place is that we know that Charlie Lindgren was really, really good last season. We know that. The season before, really good in the month of December. So kind of a question mark on what to expect from him in the 24-25 season, right? So they did, kind of an out-of-the-box thing, and they went and traded for a netminder, even though they have two pretty good options down within the Hershey Bears. B-Mac had the ability to take a 30,000-foot view, widen the lens, and take a look at this team and say, that might be a problem, and I'm going to address it. Even if it's not a problem, it's something that has me concerned that if for some reason Charlie Lindgren isn't up to the task, we're going to put a whole lot of pressure on Hunter Shepard, who's kind of unproven on the big stage in a big sample, or Clay Stevenson. I better try to fix that. So that is ultimately why he did what he did. So talking about goaltending duties after the first two games of the season, the Capitals have been altering their goaltending duties between two goalies. Lindgren, who's expected to become the team's primary starter for 23-24, played in the Capitals' home opener against the Devils, which resulted in a loss. In contrast, Logan Thompson, who was acquired through a trade during the summer, led the team to their first victory of the season against his former team on Tuesday night. In a league of what have you done for me lately, kind of puts a better smell in the air, if you will, that Logan Thompson picked up a victory against a formidable opponent. Now, to be clear here, Charlie Lindgren also faced a big opponent as well in the New Jersey Devils. It's going to be interesting to see who's the front runner and how the workload is split. So talking about being unsure of the starter position, although Lindgren received the starting position for game one based on his performance from the previous season, his role does not seem as secure this year. With the season's early stages in mind, we aim to maximize involvement for both players, Carberry said on Wednesday. Our approach will be more fluid rather than adhering to a rigid alternating schedule. The focus will be on fostering their engagement and development as we progress in the season. Some of these staunch old coaches, they're like, I'm going to go with the hot hand. Or, I remember when it was Holtby. We're going to keep going with Holtby, even though they had Grubauer. So it depends on coaching schemes. And it seems like the younger coaching staffs, the younger NHL, if they have great talent in number one and two, they like to split up the workload. So let's compare trajectories. Both Lindgren and Thompson have experienced comparable trajectories in the NHL over recent seasons. Until last season, neither goalie secured a definitive starting position. During the past season, Lindgren, participated in 50 games for Washington, while Thompson appeared in 46 games for Vegas. And, I'm not here to diminish what Lindgren did. The Capitals would have not made it to the playoffs if he was not the netminder that he was, standing on his head, making saves that many other netminders would not have made. And, entering into a season that it was supposed to be Darcy Kemper last year, playing so well that he took that job away from him. Lindgren's season record. Lindgren assumed the full-time starting role for Darcy Kemper midway through the season, achieving a record of 25 wins, 16 losses, and 7 overtime losses. He recorded goals against average of 2.67 and a save percentage of .911. On the other hand, Thompson emerged as the primary goaltender for Vegas, surpassing Adin Hill in starter after Hill had been the team's main goalie during their successful Stanley Cup run in 2023. And again, a bit surprised I did not see the Capitals making a goalie acquisition. And the fact that they have 2 really great netminders for under $2 million, I'm loving it. Thompson's impressive debut. Thompson made an impressive debut with the Caps helping secure the team's first victory this season. Significantly, this win comes against the team from which he had requested a trade several months prior. Thompson's performance was exceptional, particularly during the pivotal moment when the score hit 4-2. Carberry remarked that after the game, we became a bit disorganized and made 2 critical errors during their offensive zone faceoff. It's impressive that we made those mistakes, but Thompson certainly rose to the occasion. There was a lot of pressure on him. He stood up to the task at hand. We didn't have that for some years. Let's take a look back more recently to Samsonov and Vanacek. Wow, those were some rough years there, as Samsonov was, the Capitals were really high on him, and Vanacek kind of rose to prominence and ultimately was a disaster. It's reassuring. It's comforting that the Capitals have 2 great options in net. So the commitment to alternating stars, Carberry's commitment to alternating starts between both goaltenders at the start of the season aligns with the framework BMAC proposed upon acquiring Thompson from Vegas during the 2024 NHL draft. This strategy suggests a focused approach on optimizing performance through dual netminder system. It could be nuanced 1A, 1B scenario, Mac remarked. Charlie has certainly justified his position on the roster. Ideally, will cultivate a competitive dynamic in goal and will approach the situation as it develops. So a pivotal season ahead for both these netminders. Circling back to what I talked about off the top segment of here is that entering into contract years, both goaltenders who made significant strides last year face pivotal seasons as they seek to solidify their futures in the league. As neither has a contract beyond this season, Lindgren is playing on a $1.1 million backup salary, which he signed in 2022, while Thompson is earning less than the league minimum at $767,000. Can you believe all of that talent for under $1 million? So it's going to be interesting. The upcoming game, the Caps' upcoming game against the Dallas Stars on Thursday, marking the final stretch of a 3-game homestand. Who is going to be in net for the Capitals tonight? It'll be interesting to see if they go back to Logan Thompson or do they want another look at Charlie Lindgren. I'll have you guys covered after the game on Locked On Capitals. All right, once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Dan Holme, and I'll talk to you again next time.